Hello and welcome back to the Damage Report. I am John Iadarola, joined as always on Wednesdays, the biggest of news days, by Jayar Jackson, legendary producer. How's it going?
What's going on? What's going on?
Coming to us from some sort of, I think it's Tony Stark's rec room, I think.
Well, this is the thing. I want to make sure that I'm prepared for the future. You know, I heard that Elon Musk just moved to Texas, and I was lost. I was a loss of words trying to figure out why I should really give a damn. But I do have my robots. Which side am I on? There's my robots right over there. There's my plasma there. I'm building things for the future, brother.
You know what? I like that. You know, we don't generally see a lot of diversity in the shapes of robots, but your robots full figured there. That's good.
It's like what's the one from Big Hero 6?
Baymax.
Baymax had a nice chubby belly. It's like he's not the normal robot. He's a lovable robot. I just want to give a nice mix. I want to give the hard angles, but then also the soft belly is good.
Yeah. You don't want to go full Tesla truck. Anyway, Elon Musk. He reminds me of when I was in school. Lots of potential, and then anyway. So welcome everyone. We are about to approach a big old show. A lot to talk about. Before we get into the news, though, I did want to let you know that I apparently, through no fault of my own, I didn't intend to. I started a massive fight on Twitter when I asked people how important a pen is and what their favorite pen is, and it's going crazy. So I figured, why not cause that same conflict on the Twitch and YouTube chat? So what's the best pen? There's a correct answer. I'm not gonna tell you what it is right now, but there is a correct answer. And it's not the one that I bought so many boxes of this one pen that I've loved for a long time, which is basically just a thin Sharpie, but I found a better pen. I'll reveal it later on.
Yeah, well, okay, but I didn't know I had a specific favorite pen, but the characteristics of anybody's pen has to have a rolling ball with ink rolling. It has to be a rolling ball. You know those rolling ball styles where the ink just flows out, but you have to be a good writer in order to make it not look like a mess.
So I don't know, I don't think that's what this is, but for a very long time, going back to the current studio, they used to have a bunch of these pens rolling around. And then once we left there, I had to start buying my own, unfortunately. Whatever this is, the Papermate Flare M, which is basically just a very thin Sharpie.
Yeah,
I've always loved this. This is the previous best pen. I'll reveal.
John has always written with a marker, by the way. Just so you guys know, John writes with markers, not ink pens.
That is true. Although I am seeing on Twitch, I'm not sure if I'm seeing it on YouTube yet, but multiple people have chosen the right pen. I'm not sure
the right
thickness, but we'll see. Anyway, there is a right thickness. Sorry, internet, there is. Anyway, thank you to everybody who's already watching the stream. Please hit the like button and share the stream if you haven't already, so that people know that we're live. And by the way, hope that as many of you as possible took part in yesterday's Unlock the Vault special. We had a lot of fun. We were just talking about it before the show. But though the special is over, and you can watch it on the channel, it's available on our YouTube channel right now. Lots of people, I guess, the right one. Anyway, the fundraising drive does continue, and there's only a little bit more time for us to hit our goals. If we don't hit our goals, I'm probably gonna be ejected into space. So just if you can contribute, even a small amount, go to 2it.com/go. It keeps us stable. And by the way, I don't think you know how important the media is about to become, because the media got a little bit better during the Trump years, a little bit more critical. And that is about to be shot into space too, because we're about to have Biden. And everything's gonna be cool and stable again. And they're not gonna be asking any tough questions. They're gonna be fine with anything, but we're not. So we're about to become even more important than we were a little bit ago. So anyway, with that said, why don't we go into a few more weeks of insanity here? I'm done. Okay. Donald Trump doesn't support herd immunity or anything, except, no, that's so months ago, man. It is so explicit now. I wanna show you a little video of Donald Trump's total happy pursuit of this apocalyptic strategy for public health from yesterday's vaccine summit. Here he is.
Well, CDC puts out their guidelines, and they're very important guidelines, but I think that the vaccine was our goal. That was number one, because that was the way it ends. Plus, you do have an immunity. You develop immunity over a period of time. And I hear we're close to 15%. I'm hearing that. And that is terrific. That's a very powerful vaccine in itself. And just tremendous progress has been made.
Now he's a crazy person and he says crazy things. So there's a chance that you don't know what he means there, because then he just starts talking about other stuff. If you were watching live, Jayar, do you get what he's saying there?
Absolutely. As I watched it yesterday, as he was going through that, I said, wait, why is 15%? Because as he approached the 15%, I was like, that's bad.
Yeah, that 15%, he's saying, I don't think the number's right, but the number he's saying is the percentage of Americans who have already gotten it. And he said, that's terrific. We've lost, let's go to the numbers. 2,622 deaths are reported just yesterday, and 105,000, give or take, people are in hospitals right now over COVID-19. Several percentage points of them are gonna die. He just said it's terrific that he's done such a bad job of controlling it that it has spread insanely, and it's every day is worse. And so 15% of Americans have gotten it. Hundreds of thousands have died. That's terrific. That's its own vaccine. But that's
its own vaccine.
You could have just done absolutely nothing. I mean, I know that largely he did, but I'm saying, so then from that perspective, and remember, this isn't fundamentally about the fact that Donald Trump thinks that. It's that tens of millions of Americans agree with him. We never should have done anything about the virus. Then, maybe 75% of us would already have it. And yay, that's terrific. We would have lost 2 or 3 million Americans. And then we'd have herd immunity, assuming it even exists or lasts or any of that. That's not a big piece of news that we just showed you. He's cheering the failure. So if nobody had gotten it, bet your butt he'd be saying that was a success. And in that case, he'd actually be right. But now, no matter how many people get it, that's only a proof of how terrific the new vaccine is, the vaccine of people getting and dying from COVID.
That's the new vaccine. Well, see, John, we've come full circle. Remember earlier on in the pandemic when he knew how dangerous and highly contagious it was, he said, we're only gonna lose 15 people. Watch, 15 people. Now we're at 15% of the entire population, and that's also good. So 15 is just some kind of number in his head. You know, some people have lucky numbers. I think his lucky number is 15. 15 people, great. 15% of the entire population, great, because now we've got this herd immunity. By the way, that's herd thinning. First of all, you're trying to kill off enough people that there's only so many left that happen to survive. Maybe those are only the strong ones, or maybe the rich ones who have access to any specific kind of care, which I'm sure you're gonna get to as far as the capacity of our hospitals and care. But
yes,
he also mentioned he likes to throw a bunch of words together and call things, at least in his favor, what they're not. So even with the vaccine that is still yet to be distributed, or even the level of efficacy for it is around the 90s, I believe. Depends on which vaccine we're talking about. But he also called it's another level of immunity. This is not immunity. Does he know what immunity is? It means you cannot catch it. It means your body rejects whatever it is that's gonna get inside of it. Yes, that's my non-scientific definition. So I'm sorry if I'm a bit off on that. But with there's no immunity to even the flu, which you guys compared this to, and people get their flu shots every year, and people still get the flu every year. It's one of those things where it helps and it lessens your chances of getting it, but it's not immunity. He used immunity when he got out of the hospital as well. He said, I beat it, so apparently I'm immune. That's not what that word means.
You already had it, and you're gonna have the side effects, you big idiot. And they're even worse than every day we learn about a new one. Now we're learning about the junk-related side effects. So enjoy that for the rest of your life, Donald Trump. But yeah, that was just madness. And I know from a certain point of view, we're the bad guys because we're still focusing on this. And I'm still dumb enough or naive enough to be incensed about the fact that he is cheering on the spread of COVID. But I don't want to change from that. I don't want to get to the end of this pandemic and just think, yeah, no, whatever our officials do and say is totally fine. And he can say it's great for 15% to have it. And Nancy Pelosi can say that we don't need any aid to people because we've got a president who's coming in who believes in science. No, I don't. So much has changed. So much has fallen apart and crumbled. I don't want everything to. We should still be enraged by the end of this. Because at the end of this, it's not truly the end of this. So many people, hundreds of thousands, will still have long-term ramifications of the fact that they have COVID. We're gonna have other pandemics are gonna spread. Hopefully we'll be better place to fight against them without Donald Trump in office. But watching videos like that, like we can't get rid of him fast enough.
John, you ended up bringing me to another thought, because this is what frustrated me too, because Democrats will be doing this as well. You brought up Nancy Pelosi talking about a new president is coming in, therefore we have vaccine coming in, things are gonna get better. I hear you, but what they're also liking to say is they're giving us this image that January 1st, 2020, first of all, so a lot of people, 2021, a lot of people are thinking, oh my God, it's the end of 2020, everything's gonna get better. That's just another date of the calendar. I don't think COVID is going, just gonna wait until the end of this year, because those New Year's parties, they're gonna knock me out. It's still gonna be here, number one. So even January 20th, magically, when Biden gets into office, it's still gonna be here. So anyway, they point out that Biden said, you're still gonna have to wear your masks for the first 100 days of his term. First 100 days of his term, what is gonna happen in this first 100 days that's suddenly gonna magically make us not have to wear masks anymore? I don't get this logic. Why are we now going down the same road of magical cures and dates of ending that don't exist? Just because you're there. You're not some wizard that's gonna come in and wave this wand around and say, February 20th, it's been 1 month. You have a few more left. It's just not, it doesn't work that way. Right. Why are we saying these stupid things?
Yeah, I mean, look, hopefully, if all goes well, after those 100 days, a significant chunk of the US population will be vaccinated. But and why shouldn't we assume that everything will go well? Everything has been so far. Yeah. And by the way, and we got a couple more crazy videos, and then we're gonna turn to the ICU stuff. But let's say that I'm wrong and Jayar's wrong and everybody's wrong, and it's not gonna get worse. The dark winter stuff is not gonna happen. It's not gonna get worse. What if it just stays the same? Biden is gonna be inaugurated in 58 days, is it? 58 days? We lost 2,600 people reported yesterday. Do you wanna run the math on that if it doesn't get worse? That's a lot more than 100,000 people between now and inauguration day. I really don't think people have that it's gotten through to them how bad it actually is right now. And it probably will get worse. But anyway, let's turn to, the stakes are so bad. It's devastating to even play these videos, but I want you to know what we're stuck with for at least the next 2 months. Donald Trump, when he was running for president, he said that he was gonna learn and he was gonna get better and all of that. And we're now in the last 2 months of him being president. So if that was going to happen, one would think that it would have happened by now. Let's check in on his progress in being able to be competent, or at least communicate well about the most important crises of the last century. So here is Donald Trump talking about how he sees the numbers developing in the near future.
The numbers should skyrocket downward.
That's not a thing. That's not how humans talk. And the thing is, that video was played at the vaccine summit, where this is good news, right? We've got the vaccines coming, and it could have gone in one of two ways. Either he could have had the vaccine companies there, but they don't want to be there because Trump, or he could do a good job in lieu of that. But unfortunately, things are skyrocketing downward. And also, let's really fast, let's play this. So this is about the historic achievement of getting the vaccine done as fast as it was.
Before Operation Warp Speed, the typical time frame for development and approval, as you know, could be infinity.
What does that mean?
I guess you could start work on one and never achieve it. And that's true. There are things that we can't vaccinate against, but that wasn't really what we thought we were up against here. Man, what a way to lower the bar for success. We beat infinity and beyond. So I guess great.
So wait, I'm sorry, I gotta hear the quote again. What's infinity?
His timeline for development could be a long time or infinity. That was the bar. Infinity was the bar.
Okay, so again, it's a bunch of lofty words and aspirations and claims of cartoonish type of end games that he engages in. That's really all he's got. So first of all, the Skywar skyrocketing downward, you would think it doesn't make sense, John, because obviously the sky is up, but downward is down. But as we all know, in the past 4 years, up is in fact down. Left is in fact right, north is south, and east is west. This all makes sense actually in the grand scheme of things, the way if you want to approach things a certain way, because also illegal is now legal. If you commit a crime, as long as you're along with the Trump people, you're a patriot. And if you don't commit a crime, then that means you're a criminal. All these things have been established within this administration. So there's absolutely nothing weird about a downward skyrocket.
Yeah, well, except, I mean, it can still be beautiful. The last bit of it tends to be really horrific though.
It does explain a lot about Trump Airlines in skies. It also explains a lot. Actually, if you're going to be part of his Space Force, please don't join now because you will be going into the ground.
Let them work out the bugs first. And finally, we have sort of become used to the fact that Donald Trump and the rest of the federal government doesn't care about the skyrocketing upward death numbers. They don't even talk about it. They don't even acknowledge that thousands of Americans are dying every day. And he is only being president in regard to the virus, in regard to trying to take credit for the fact that scientists developed the vaccine. That's pretty much it. But we're gonna switch things up. And rather than make a mockery of the public health response of the federal government, he's going to mock the response of other governments. Because when he found out that Germany had experienced in one day 20,000 cases and 590 deaths, this is what the still current president of the United States has to say about it. Germany has consistently been used by my obnoxious critics as the government that we should follow on the way to handle the China virus. So much for that argument. I love Germany. Vaccines on the way. So you can't just throw "I love Germany" at the end of something after mocking the fact that they lost a lot of people. That's not how that works. You don't get to like tell Don Jr. what you really think about him and then pretend you love him afterward. That's not how it works.
Well, also, I know he doesn't like numbers. He definitely doesn't like accurate numbers. And apparently testing is what creates numbers. How come this argument isn't used for Germany? It's because it's all a competition for him. He needs to make himself look better than someone else. But in reality, has he tweeted out our numbers under his watch?
Nope, not interested. He's not interested. Yeah, so Germany has in total lost 20,000 people, by the way, which is just devastating. Germany is of course a smaller country, but if you want to run the math, you can. Proportionally, still doing much better than us. And let's say, okay, if you're really worried about Germany, because after all he says that he loves Germany, let's do something to help them then. I mean, obviously we're not in any position to do that because of his lack of leadership, but it's such a bizarre way to look at the world that bad news happening somewhere is a way to own your domestic critics for your own failure. It is such an alien way of thinking about morality or public health or the role of a government official.
Yeah. Well, also, by the way, the criticisms come because when these spikes and these numbers happen in other countries, we like to talk about how, well, look how they're going to lock down again. They're responding to the reality of the situation. You're making fun of them for doing that rather than seeing a situation and just saying it's not really happening. I don't understand how that, well, actually I do understand how that works, it's stupidity. But the idea is just to make sure you mock someone else, to make yourself look better. It has nothing to do with them. No, he doesn't care about Germany. No, he doesn't understand that there's a different population and that they're approaching things differently. Now, by the way, when we compare other countries to us, as far as say healthcare and how much better they're doing than us, what do we say about them? Oh, that's just some European bastion of socialism. We don't care about them. They're not as good as us. We write them off whenever we do those comparisons when they're doing better than us, right? Which is in many cases.
That's true. The only thing I'll disagree with you on is we're not telepaths. We can't say definitively that Trump doesn't love Germany. Maybe he was just being vague. Which time period exactly was he talking about there? Anyway, let's turn to just a little bit more on COVID before we move on to other issues, including the runoff elections that are coming up soon. To give you an idea of how rough the next few weeks, perhaps the next few months of the COVID situation in the US might be, let's take a look at the ICU capacity issue that many areas of the country are currently facing. There you're seeing sort of a heat map for how full ICUs are in different counties. And you can see a lot of areas, I mean, even the light areas are 75%. full. But you can see a lot of areas at the 90, 95% plus capacity at this point. I want to focus on a couple of different areas. In El Paso, hospitals reported that just 13 of their 400 intensive care beds were not occupied last week. In Fargo, North Dakota, there were just 3 beds. In Albuquerque, there were 0. There are some areas, and you can go on the New York Times and you can type in your zip code. You can find out what it's like in your area. There were ones that were over 100%. Here in LA, we're at 80%. It is a city of like 11 million people in the general area, and there's very little excess capacity when these numbers continue to rise as they have been. My mom's town that she lives in Florida is at 100% capacity right now. McAllen, Texas, the closest sort of like small city to where my in-laws live, is at 88% right now. This is not about one city or one state. This is across America. This is just the natural outcome of the cases going up, and now the hospitalizations are going up. And when this happens, when they max out, it doesn't just mean more deaths from COVID, although that is horrific enough. It also means they need that capacity for other stuff too. Other injuries and diseases don't go away during this time, but now they're gonna have to make very tough decisions about who actually gets help. And it's not just that the beds will be closed, it's people are going to be taken off of ventilators and things like that to make room for people who are even worse off. So some people who in theory, if we had the capacity, if we had lowered the curve and all of that, might still be receiving help soon, will have to be triaged out of that help to make way for people who are even worse off. So that is coming soon to cities across America.
Yeah, you know how the fake outrage from many Republicans talking about the domestic violence being on the rise, depression being on the rise, people's alcoholism and potential drug use being on the rise because of quarantine and sitting at home, and a lack of cross, I guess, interaction and community in the world, in the country specifically, I guess, since we're talking about our numbers. So if you're concerned about those things, aren't you concerned about them getting help for those things? Part of that help, it's health. You have to go get checked out. Cancer screenings are way down. Do you care about that? So if someone does have a stroke, heart attack because of all this indulging in alcoholism and smoking and drug use and potential bad eating, getting takeout, whatever it is that people are doing that is making such an unhealthy scenario that we're concerned about, they need hospital access as well. So so do we care about these things you guys are claiming to care about with everyone's health outside of COVID-related issues, or do you not? Because if you did, you'd like for them to get help. This is how our healthcare system works, in case they didn't know.
Yeah, 100%. Really fast, just a couple more numbers for you. More than a third of Americans live in areas where hospitals are running critically short of intensive care beds, and 1 in 10 Americans live in an area where intensive care beds are either completely full or fewer than 5% are available. And look, we throw this out here, hoping that it will change people's behavior, because this is like we've gone along a lot of steps to get to this point. The next few steps are going to be even rougher, okay? And we're trying to get people to take seriously the travel, trying to get them to socially distance, trying to get them to understand that if you do get sick, there is no guarantee that there is going to be a bed waiting for you. And as we approach Christmas, factor that into your planning.
I want to point out now, John, it sounds like you're being not conspiratorial. It sounds like this is what maybe opponents to this would say is you're fear mongering. You're trying to scare people. How do you know that's going to happen? We heard the same thing in April, May, June, when people said, hey, look out, this is what's gonna happen in the fall because of the way that we're acting and because it's the natural way things go. They give reasons why we have these projections of what can happen with COVID. And then when you give those projections, they go, why are you just fearmongering? How do you know what's gonna happen? Then it happens. And you say the next step means this is gonna happen next because I'm seeing our behaviors. And they go, well, how do you know? It keeps happening.
Yeah. By the way, I just saw a comment on Twitch. Day Ranger says 1000% Jayar. The other deaths that are not directly COVID that kill more and more as hospitals are overrun, depression and suicide, domestic violence rises. So sad.
Yeah, exactly. The next time a Republican, even if it's not, if your friend of yours or family member says, hey, you know all the bad things that are happening to people in their houses now? We need to open up so that they won't be committing so much domestic violence and alcoholism and all these things, et cetera, et cetera. And ask them next, because no one ever finishes the thought. They like to give you the fear part, but they don't give you the solution because they don't have one. The end point is the fear. So after they say it, go, oh man, that's concerning. What should we do about that? After that's just opening up. What do we do about the people who are now addicted to drugs? What do we do about people who are now are beating on their family members? Or what do we do about the alcoholism? What should we do now? Are you concerned about it? And when they go, I don't know, go, well, until you have a solution to this problem, how about you shut up?
Yeah. Oh God, dark winter coming. Okay, before we move on to other news,
sorry,
it is important news. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Like sometimes we get to joke around, sometimes we don't. You know, we go to war with the news we've got, not the news we want. Okay, some super chats, including the first super chat today from Chakuseki, who says, John, loved the clips of your early career on TYT yesterday. Do you know if research shows if demon semen helps with depression? Asking for a friend. That is a funny mashup of 2 bits of news. The early videos of me on TYTU are cringeworthy. Anyway, and I sent them in to TYTU when Jayar Jackson was the co-host of TYTU. A lot of people forget that.
It was so fun.
I remember, you know what?
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Go. No, I've still got T-shirts from people that sent them in from various colleges because I would wear a different university's T-shirt each day, and it was like a bit of my grift to get some free swag. I was like, I want some university shirts, bro, and I got like 7 to 10 of them. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when you and Anna did a hot dog eating contest, and like you start, and Anna's like, and Jared's like, he's laying out the ketchup. He's like, I'm gonna eat the hot dog, but I'm gonna enjoy it.
It was a bacon wrapped hot dog. You can't rush through that. It was bacon wrapped, bro. It was worth indulging.
Delicious. Okay, let's see. Jay Fergie says, John, I'm here to formally request a Dragon versus Kraken battle shirt design. Also, if it hasn't been taken, I'd like to claim the title of Skater Dragon. Happy and safe holidays. It is yours. Yeah. Carlos, if you're or Norma, if you're listening, Dragon versus Kraken shirt. If we could get that soon, that'd be pretty sweet. Okay. Bradley Slaughter says, from listening to a lot of Gen X and boomers in Florida, we could change a lot of minds to progressive ideology if we can actually get something passed. They just truly believe they're on their own. I mean, that is basically what we've been telling establishment Democrats for a long time. Just try actually passing some of this. It might actually help you. Ardessa says, my husband's surgery went great. He'll live, Yahoo, pure dragon, happy dance. Ardessa, very glad to hear that. That's awesome news. Nicole Nowicki says, hey John, my dad is in ICU in Wayne County, Michigan and isn't improving. And after 2 weeks, they want us to start thinking about ending care. And it's because of capacity. Please send good vibes. Nicole, I'm so sorry to hear that. My family went through the exact same thing.
Yeah, so, and by the way, the concern for people and their mental health and their depression and all that, imagine all the people, family and friends that are dealing with this number of people that have died and that they have to put up with that. And what kind of counseling comes from that? What kind of grief counseling comes from that? Who cares? Who cares? Open up the economy. We need McDonald's to fill up its employees and Target to open and make sure that everyone can jam themselves into for holiday shopping.
Yeah, I need restaurants open, and no, not takeout, and no, I'm not sitting outside. I need it to be inside. I need exactly what I want right now, even if it kills people. I've always tried to be very vague about who exactly died, so I'm gonna be very vague. But from the point that person's partner, that person went to the hospital, that person's partner, for the more than 3 weeks that they spent in the hospital, never got to see them, and then that person died. This is still happening all over America every single day. And people are more concerned about being able to eat fettuccine Alfredo indoors.
Yep.
Make it yourself. It ain't difficult, honestly. I understand you gotta mix things up and you need novel surroundings because you're really bored talking to the people you're around. Get on Zoom with someone, join a message board or something. I'm trying not to swear, but people are dying. Anyway, okay. On Twitch, Tree Mubatiki gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you, Tree, as always, for that. Kenneth Wolf subscribed at tier 2 for 3 months and says, woohoo, woohoo for you, Kenneth Wolf. Big Leb subscribed as well. Thank you for that. Sema Lynn subscribed to tier 1. Penny Bluebell subscribed to tier 1 on 3 months now. Thank you for that. Curly Burb is on 4 months and says, I might be homeless next month, but this show still picks up my spirits. Thanks for all the work you guys put in to keep us informed. Curly Burb, I'm really sorry to hear that. I mean, I don't know if it would help, but this is what we're talking about when we talk about the arguments about COVID aid. And Osborne subscribed for 8 months. My laziness is exactly as the number 8. If it lays down, it becomes infinite. That is funny, Osborne. Thank you for that. Andy from Ohio wants to see Sprocket. Maybe we can make that happen a little bit later on.
Oh, we'll see.
And until then, let's move on to other news. We've got 2 very important Senate runoff elections happening in just a few weeks in Georgia. And if you watched the debates that just happened, not looking great for the Republicans necessarily. One didn't even show up, and the other looks like a poorly developed robot. But that doesn't mean that the Republicans don't have a strategy, and it's the same one as always. They're gonna make it as tough to vote as possible. In Cobb County, the state's 3rd most populous county with more than 760,000 residents, election officials have announced 5 early voting locations, fewer than half of the 11 used for early voting in the election that just ended 1 month ago. See, because Georgia, like I don't know if you've been following this, a lot of people voted in Georgia, and it turns out when a lot of people vote, the state can flip to blue. So can't have that. We need to cut those polling places. In an interview with the Washington Post, Cobb County Elections Director Janine Evler said she didn't have the staff to run more early voting sites, which that might well be true. The thing is, staff could be available if the state cared enough to actually pay for it, but like that just leads to more people voting. And in particular in Cobb County, we don't want that. And bear in mind, a lot of people apparently want to vote in this runoff election. Nearly 1 million voters have already requested mail-in ballots for the runoff election, according to election officials. About 1.3 million mail-in votes were cast in November's general election, which Biden led by about a 400,000 vote margin. I mean, that is pretty amazing. We still have time, and it's close to the number for the presidential election. Yeah. If you're a Republican in Georgia, Jayar, that has gotta be terrifying you.
Well, they know, that's the thing. So, I mean, again, we just mentioned how, they want Red Lobster and the Olive Garden to open up so you can sit inside and have your unlimited breadsticks. But they don't want to have enough election sites or election officials hired to run this election correctly. I think we find out where the priorities are. Chicken Alfredo, as you mentioned, is definitely up on the list, but voting is definitely not.
Yeah, voting sauce just isn't delectable enough, I guess. Democracy, it doesn't do it for them. And so look, obviously as a result of this, a lot of people are worried about the voter suppression and in particular how it is going to affect in Georgia, especially people of color. With a group of advocates, including Georgia branches of the NAACP and the American Civil Liberties Union, writing a letter to local officials saying, we are especially concerned that these closures will be harmful to Cobb County's Black and Latinx voters because many of the locations are in Black and Latinx communities. That is going to be a shocker to the election officials in Georgia. When they find out that they potentially suppressing Black and Latinx voters, like that's not their intention, not at all, not at all. And take a look at this as we continue. You can see this Cobb County advanced voting sites, and you can see this sort of demographic breakdown on the right there. But this isn't new, man. In Georgia a couple of years ago, they removed so many polling places. That was Brian Kemp. That was how he got elected, was by doing that. Why wouldn't they double down on that?
Let's not forget, the Supreme Court weakened the Voting Rights Act several few years ago, and then a year after that, the Congress was trying to pass laws to help strengthen it again. And I remember Democrats were trying to push for this, and Republicans were absolutely not on board. And they said specifically, this is a bipartisan legislation proposal, by the way. They specifically were saying it's not needed. The Voting Rights Act is just fine. No one needs to do this anymore. And also, it's outdated in the way that they do it. So let's point out really fast. It was the Section 5, reactivate the Section 5, this provision of the Voting Rights Act. And what they would do is they would make states that have a history of suppressing people's votes, specifically, of course, minorities and disenfranchised communities. Those states that generally do that, anytime they have a change, they have to get this approved because many times the changes, as we're seeing right now in Georgia, are designed specifically to disenfranchise particular specific voters so that you can win. Obvious on top of obvious. We know how this works. Now, again, this was 2014. Donald Trump was not president. This is the same Republican Party that has been doing this since the beginning. He just walked in and said, the Republican Party is like fresh and ready for me to come in and just invade and use at my will because they're not for any kind of actual election security or any democracy. Why would they care about that? This is perfect for me. This party was tailor-made for Donald Trump to come in and become the dictator of it.
Yep. So you mentioned 2013 when the Voting Rights Act was taken out. In the aftermath of that, Georgia shut down 200 polling sites.
Immediately.
And I want to put that in perspective. The early voting sites they're setting up for Cobb County is 5, third most populous county. So maybe they could have used those extra 200. By the way, and so we're comparing the 5 to, for instance, for Cobb County, the 11 that they had during the election that we just had a month ago. I don't want you to believe that like it was good then. There were hours long lines for early voting with the 11. Some voters had to wait up to 10 hours to vote. And now they cut it by more, like by more than a half. I really hope, I mean, everybody knows the stakes. That's why they're doing this. I hope that the voters, it's gonna be so much tougher when it's not a presidential race. I mean, to stand in line for 3 or 5 or 10 hours is so tough, but I really hope that people do.
The motivation for them to do it has to be presented, and that's the hard part. Because again, it's December, bro. It's January when they're gonna run it, right? So again, it's the middle of the winter. There's issues with standing outside and waiting for 10 hours in line. No one wants to do that. That's what they're banking on.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to another.
Again, why mail-in is something that's completely against their beliefs, because that makes
exactly. And by the way, if you can't afford to have the staff, then do the mail-in voting. You can have machines process them and all of that. It can just be drop off. It requires far less staff actually on hand. Anyway, hold on one sec. I'm checking one thing just to make sure. Okay, didn't want to be wrong about that. Let's move now to a weird bit of news. I saw a bit of breaking news last night, I believe it was, by Axios. That confused me a little bit, and it was this. President-elect Joe Biden is considering a high-profile ambassadorship for Pete Buttigieg, possibly sending him to China. Now, the fact that they are going to give Pete Buttigieg a position does not surprise me. But every bit of additional information in this Axios article made me want to bash my head against something. So this is how they describe, all of these are words directly from the article. The 38-year-old former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, whom Biden has compared to his late son, Beau, played a key role in Biden's nomination. Letting him deepen his foreign policy chops could boost Buttigieg's future, since many inside the Democratic Party believe his return as a presidential candidate is a matter of when, not if. Okay, let's stop there for now. What the hell is that paragraph? So did he play a role in his nomination? Totally, I get that, that happened, that's fine. Letting him deepen his foreign policy chops could boost his future because everybody just assumes it's a matter of when, not if. I don't even disagree with that last bit that it's a when, not if. But like, let's be very clear about who is actually for that. It's not like it's a when, not if, because there's just so many Buddha heads out there that are just, they want another taste of the Buddha. No, he raised a bunch of money. So there are establishment hacks that are like, oh God, let's get him to go again. He did terribly, and what was his key problem, Jayar? What was his key problem in the primary?
That he would say a lot
in
and
terms
say
of appealing
nothing?
to voters. Well, no, that's not a problem for them anyway. It was that there was like 3.5 black people who were interested in voting for him.
Yeah.
Has that changed in any way?
Well, maybe his ambassadorship to China will change that.
So it'll deepen his foreign policy chops. Okay, there's like multiple things wrong with that.
Yeah.
One, what does he have to do with China or being an ambassador? He was the mayor of a small town in Indiana. He wasn't governor of California. And also, it'll deepen his foreign policy. That could boost his future. What? Nobody was like, I was gonna vote for Buttigieg, but I think he needed a bit more sit down time with the trade representative from China. That isn't actually the problem. This is the sort of BS that people who don't know or care what voters actually care about think matters. These stupid little showy positions where he's gonna go there, he's gonna do nothing for 4 years. He's gonna learn nothing for 4 years. But he'll get to do a couple of photo ops and that'll play well. No, nobody cares about that. Nobody is interested in that. Nobody is like, well, I'm really thinking about Bernie or Buttigieg, and did he spend enough time in Beijing? I don't know. That's just such establishment BS.
Yeah, translation as far as boosting his foreign policy chops. It's boosting his national name and his spotlight on him. That's all it's doing. It's boosting his image. It's boosting his stock for his next run. That's all it says. So by the way, while he's, who knows his foreign policy chops, but according to this article, they're not that good. So if you need your foreign policy chops honed up or shaved down, whatever the term is. If you have to bone up on your foreign policy, then you probably don't have much of those chops already. So while you're learning, what's going wrong? Because by the way, if I walk into a job that I've never done before, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd like to be a doctor, but I haven't done any of that medical school stuff, or maybe minimally, I'm gonna have to bone up on my medical degree. So how about you guys send me a couple people to operate on while I hone in on it? I'm gonna hurt some people as I learn. So again, all the details that go into what he may be doing, maybe he's gonna be like a figurehead and he won't have to do much and everything will be fine. But if he has to actually do things and you've admitted that he doesn't know what he's doing, why are we doing it? Yeah, 100%. They mentioned one of. By the way, sorry, John, I have too much to say today. If it's obviously Buttigieg is supposed to get a position because of his help. We all know that. They just couldn't figure out where to put him. That's all this is saying. We didn't know what to do with him. He's raised all this stuff for us, so let's just go ahead and put him somewhere.
Totally. Okay. Yeah, the article is fairly clear about that. That like it's been hard finding a cabinet position for him, because the VP is focused on nominating women and people of color to high-level posts. Okay, so that is part of it, that obviously Biden does want diversity. But is that really the biggest issue for finding a cabinet position for him? I could offer another one. He doesn't have any relevant experience for any of them, and he doesn't in any way deserve a position on the cabinet. The cabinet isn't like, 6th grade class treasurer. It's actually important. We actually need the government to function. Hey, you remember over the past few years how we made a big deal out of all of the BS choices that were chosen for Trump's cabinet, and how he like surround himself with like top aides who are just like his kids and stuff, making a mockery of the fact that the government is supposed to function? That is what this is. And Axios acknowledges that it's because he helped Biden before Super Tuesday. Okay, why don't we criticize that though? Why don't we say, hey, what does he know about China? Like, is it not going to hurt US-China relations when we send this guy who's like a day and a half older than me and has marginally more government experience than me to go be our representative to them? Like they mention, because this article is a little bit kind of like a puff piece, it's like a PR thing. They mention that he's a polyglot, which he is. He speaks a lot of languages. They don't mention he doesn't speak Chinese. So who cares? Okay, you got Spanish locked down. That's awesome. You got one up on me. You're not going to Spain, Buttigieg. Yeah, whip out your Spanish. Let's see how far that takes you. It's not gonna work.
Maybe they should. How about
so
Spain?
Unserious. All of this is so unserious. This government is not, it's not for fun, and it's not all for setting up presidential runs for people who are gonna run in 4 years and gonna do terribly, because he's only gonna be worse and more oily and artificial than he was now. He was at least sort of a young person. He's gonna lose that in the next 4 or 8 years, and so am I, now that I think about it. It's just, it's such an unserious look at the government. Biden should be so embarrassed by this. This should be massive news that they're handing off such an important position to someone who doesn't have any qualifications for it.
No, it's not embarrassing because he's palatable. People liked him, establishment folks liked him, media liked him because he comes in, well, yeah, the raise money for the political side, the acceptance as far as everyone else is like, when you hear him speak, he doesn't offend you immediately. He actually never does because you don't know what he's saying. Then he comes and he's nice to you. I mean, it's really all it takes. I mean, I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. That's the thing. And you don't want to say anything bad about perfectly nice guys. You're such a meanie, John.
I guess. I just like I was kind of hoping that like we'd have like a big about face going from one administration to the other, but like no, there's still gonna be some things where it's like these positions are considered. Like you're supposed to give like the ambassadorship to like some big donor of yours who's like 80, but to a small country, not to China. It's actually important. Ridiculous. Anyway, let's read a few super chats before we move on to other news, because we got a little bit more on Georgia actually. Zane says, I'm looking into running for Congress against Kevin McCarthy, but I need 2,000 local signatures. So if you're in that district, be on the lookout. There's a dragon with a petition who needs your help. Stephanie Coker says, thanks for all you do. Thank you, Stephanie, I appreciate that. Joe Greer says, we need a John Iadarola Barren Mind t-shirt. I guess I do say that a lot. At one point, we were trying to figure out when we were trying to think of like the name think tank that we came up with. I at one point had like a 6x4 whiteboard with tiny handwriting of all the different names that it was gonna be, and having a mascot that was a bear was actually one of them. Anyway,
well, also, I mean, when we referenced last night in the bear issue, one of the throwback videos from True North, John has a history with bears, so bear in mind, polar bears, all that, it all fits, it all goes together.
It always comes back to the bears, and thus far, like someday I will actually be killed by a bear. So everyone look forward to that. And then when that happens, if you could pull this video, that'd be pretty amazing. Oh my God, what the hell? No, stop it, stop it! I knew they were gonna wait until they got to the semen.
What do is raise some money a little bit, and then we can play those.
Anyway, let's see. Okay, Leu says there is a right pen, but what about the right paper, Dragon Daddy? Well, the paper that I bought for when there was a brief period during the pandemic where my thing to distract myself was that I bought a typewriter and I was using a typewriter.
Oh yeah.
I bought Southworth 100% cotton business paper. It was very, very high quality. I like it. Anyway, by the way, let me tell you the pen. So the pen that generated this whole thing was, I told them in the break, it was a pen that I had to use at the eye doctors, and I was just so blown away by it. And many people did guess it. It was the Pilot G207. I think the 07 is like the width of it, but the Pilot G2, that's a good pen. I'm just saying.
It's 0.7, John. It's 0.7. So 7/10.
7/10
is the size of that head of that ink pen. Yes.
I'm getting uncomfortable again. Jared Craft says, if America's excuse for Europe handling the coronavirus better is they're socialist, doesn't that mean socialism is the better system? I think you're onto something. Let's see. In the chat, Brooke Marks is very happy because that's her favorite pen too. Ryan says, John, as my toddler and infant completely defeat my wife and I, we can always count on your voice to help us drift off to sleep midday. Thank you. Looking forward to getting caught up with those TDR later. That was intended as a compliment?
I don't think it was.
Does it feel like one exactly? Thank you, Ryan McNabb. Glad I was able to help. I just got owned. Peter Burbeck says YouTube now will auto delete videos that say there was voter fraud in 2020. Yes, well, sort of. So they're basically saying that in the same way that blanket assertions without facts about past elections being flipped because of pervasive election fraud, if there isn't evidence for it, that was their policy before. Now they're saying that is going to apply to this election.
It's a past election.
Yeah, and it is. And look, I get people are gonna be frustrated by that because they believe that free speech is about private companies not exercising any control of their platform. I get that. That's a position that many people have. And I didn't think that it was necessary. I wasn't calling for it. I get the COVID thing is a public health concern. This is a public democracy concern. It's their platform. I don't know. Let's see. Terry Blade says, favorite John Iadarola isms this episode, 100%, totally, I guess. I'm so predictable, Anyway, thank you for that. Let's see, Bart says, Pete thinks if he can read the Panda Express's menu in Mandarin, he will impress the mainstream media and be an expert in China relations with the US. By the way, orange chicken is the best.
I was gonna say, as soon as you said Mandarin, I was like, this is going to orange chicken somehow. I knew it would.
It totally is. I prefer beef and broccoli, but I get what you're saying. Okay, let's see. Over on Twitch, Northern Nice Dragon says, I actually prefer mechanical pencils, but if I need to use a pen, I use a gel pen. Okay. The Kurd Burglar says, best pencil is the Ticonderoga Black, just saying, LOL. I have
serious.
It does. It sounds dangerous. Did we just get rated? What is going on with these emojis in
Twitch?
Is that a thing? Oh my God, that's me. There's some kind of new emote on Twitch, and I'm not thrilled by it. And I think it's from last night's special. Oh God!
Don't make me sign on, John.
Oh God! Emotes. They are the privilege and the terror of Twitch. Perhaps coming soon to YouTube, not saying anything. Anyway, let's move on to our second to last story. It involves more politicians who suck and are not qualified for the positions they hold. Pay attention, Pete Buttigieg, you might learn something. So for a long time, we've been talking about Kelly Loeffler as well as David Perdue, both Republican senators up for re-election in this runoff election. Both of them spent the year doing nothing but personally profiting off of the insider knowledge that they have about coronavirus. It turns out though, that we do have something to learn from Kelly Loeffler because she's about to teach us the most important lesson for a successful relationship, which is have shared interests. And it turned out that Kelly Loeffler and her husband do share the same interest of personally profiting from private government information during a pandemic. So for weeks, the couple had done almost nothing but sell stocks based on the knowledge they had about how bad this was gonna get. Loeffler was one of several senators who faced public outrage for unloading millions of dollars in stock before most Americans understood the towering threat posed by the pandemic. Then shortly before the CARES Act, a $2 trillion emergency stimulus package was introduced in the Senate. Her husband reversed course and purchased up to $1 million in new shares. Very interesting, because the economy was doing very bad at that point, and we didn't know how much worse it was gonna get. That's a very risky time to be buying stock. Sorry, I mean, if you don't have access to insider information about what's gonna be in legislation that most people don't have, that's like for people like me, not for people like him. So the terms of the CARES Act were still mostly a secret, known primarily to Republican senators, while members of their party crafted legislation. But in the days before the bill's introduction, Sprecher, that is Kelly Loeffler's husband, managed to invest in several industries, insurance and energy, that were poised to take advantage of the bill's very specific provisions. So for instance, deep inside the CARES Act, which became law in late March, there was a tremendous tax break that disproportionately benefited some of the very same industries on which Sprecher had placed a bet. Weird coincidence. As a way of quickly injecting corporations with billions in ready cash, the CARES Act allowed businesses to carry back certain losses to previous tax years and claim a retroactive tax fund. Now, the carryback provision was one that Loeffler could very well have learned about days before the Senate bill went public. In the 3 days just before its unveiling, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin met twice with Senate Republicans behind closed doors to discuss the bill's particulars, and Senate Republicans held a private lunch to brief their members on some specific proposals the bill would contain. The day after the Republican luncheon, March 19th, the CARES Act was publicly introduced in the Senate, complete with the carryback provision. Now, we could go super in depth into all the different stocks that were able to take advantage of that and how much money they made off of it and how their stock went up and how that benefited Sprecher. But long story short, relatively less short, they had information before we did. And while we are right to be more angry at her, an actual elected representative, for using that information and then lying to the public about that same information, she is also clearly sharing information with her husband, and they are benefiting too, not just on selling, but on buying as well. And that should be 100% unacceptable. It should certainly be illegal. It isn't yet, unfortunately. We should work towards that. But in the short term, we should at least reject her being able to have continued access to that private information so that she can profit the same way going forward.
Just, it's right there in plain sight. This is what people should understand. Every time you hear Donald Trump, which he does many times, even in the middle of his embarrassing losses in court over this election, he continues to come back to the stock market and what he's done for it. Oh, look at the stock market. Look at the stock market. When the stock market does go down, he doesn't mention it. When it goes up, he does. Every time he mentions the stock market, I know we've said this, think about whether or not that affects you. When that stock market changed, what happened? Do you have a portfolio, number one? Do you know what the hell a portfolio is? The vast majority of Americans do not have any kind of portfolios where they're then trading and reversing course like her husband did and purchased up to $1 million in new shares. How much money did you put back in the new shares in the middle of this pandemic, if you were ever in it in the first place? So every time they talk about the economy doing great, it's this economy is what they're talking about doing great. Has nothing to do with your wages, has nothing to do with how much you take home, has nothing to do with what they talk about all the time is these dinner table conversations that people have with their families about how they're gonna feed them and how they're gonna pay the bills. These conversations have nothing to do with this economy that they're talking about. But this economy that they're talking about is allowed to be openly fixed for their benefit every time. And then when you bring it up, they go, you're just trying to interrupt us just taking part in the American dream. What part of the American dream do these people have that are challenging you on this? How many of their shares went down? How many of their shares were reversed at the last second? Again, think about it every time. He's talking about Kelly Loeffler and her husband and their connections and David Perdue and all their connections. Every time he says economy, trust me, he's not talking about your paycheck.
No. I mean, like we talk a lot about out of touch politicians, like lots of them, and they're not all Republicans. Nancy Pelosi she doesn't know anything but about the economy, the real economy. Kelly Loeffler doesn't even know how to pretend. Like that performance at the debate was amazing. Like how entitled to that seat and how sure must you be that voter suppression is gonna give it to you again, that you could perform the way that she did and not have to answer for the fact that she spent the year not pushing for aid for her actual constituents, benefiting herself and her husband. And by the way, this is a stupid thing to say. Like, if she was even only as wealthy as your average representative, I would almost sort of understand a little bit of it. Wouldn't be acceptable, should be illegal, at the very least it's immoral. Her and her husband are worth at least $800 million. They were gonna be just fine no matter what, but they still did it. They're so sure that there aren't gonna be any consequences, and thus far they've been proven right. The question is, will there be for the election?
Yeah,
and going forward. Yeah. No, continue.
This failsafe has been put in place. We just talked about the way that the Republicans in Georgia are trying to make sure that people can't vote again in this runoff. This is the failsafe. This is reassurance that she gets. She's like, well, yeah, I've been totally exposed, but all I have to do is go up there and be a robot, and then it doesn't matter as long as I don't say anything. People will continue to just fix this for me. And it's not fixed the way Donald Trump is talking about. It's fixed under the law because they make sure lawmakers put things in place that allow these lawmakers to do things to continue to keep their job and carry on with their insider trading the way Loeffler has been doing. I mean, and this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is how it works. Nobody will deny that.
Should be in jail. Like, think about the message it would send to our elected representatives, both current and future, if these people who profited while just making a mockery of the fact that there was a pandemic that was killing so many people, if they spent the rest of their life in jail or 10 years in jail or whatever. God, that would be so amazing. But there won't be. There won't be. They'll be perfectly fine. All of them will be. I know that there are people that think that there will be any justice beyond the fact that Biden has won. I'm not expecting any of it, man. Even without the pardons, I think Trump is gonna be just fine. His team is gonna be just fine.
Absolutely.
I love that people have that optimism still. I have it in some areas, mostly pen related. Anyway, let's move on to our quick last story before we close things out. I have an interview I'm gonna be filming after the show with an author who's talking about how we fix the climate crisis, actual like in-depth solutions to what our government and other governments can do. I'm very much looking forward to that, but let's talk about this story first. We've been lucky so far that while a lot of people have been talking crazy about the election, and there is very much a fear out there that Donald Trump or someone else could say something that sparks some sort of mass violence, we thus far haven't really seen it. There's been isolated incidents, but not mass violence, not a new civil war or anything like that. But that said, more and more people in powerful positions are talking about this still, these election challenges, in very apocalyptic language. So it's one thing when a random person says, I am willing to give my life for this fight, for Trump to overturn the results of the election. It's another thing when the Arizona Republican Party retweets it with, he is, are you? Oh, are you asking me? No, I'm not willing to give my life either way, honestly, but definitely not for Donald Trump. Jayar, are you? Will you give your life for the fight?
What fight? That's what's left. The fight you keep getting knocked out.
People.
You're laid out in the middle of the ring, bleeding from the nose, and someone just knocked you out. Where's the fight? The fight is over. Are you willing to die for it? Well, if you keep lying on the ground and letting blood seep to the back of your brain, you just might die. Because you keep losing these legal challenges. I think we're up to 50 now. Are we at now? 50 legal challenges. Yeah, over 50 legal challenges now in multiple states. But every time it happens, they just shrug it aside and go, we're ready for the fight, bro.
Yeah.
It's the 17th round.
They even lost a little one in the Supreme Court. I talked about it in the pre-show today. By the way, pre-show happens 45 minutes before the live show. Definitely tune into that every day. But yeah, I die for what? I don't know. But that's really the thing. Yeah. There's nothing that a regular Republican needs to die for. But this is an opportunity for grift, and grift comes in multiple forms, and this is one of them. It's the like, I'm the tough guy grift. Yeah, I'd do anything. Whoever this random person who controls the Arizona Republican Party Twitter account is, like, I'm stronger, bolder, I'll do whatever. Then they tweeted out this. This is what we do, who we are. Live for nothing or die for something, with a video of a guy with an arrow cocked and pointed at his head. So like, I get principles and all that, but like, dodge. Jesus, it's an arrow. It's not a gun. Put your hand up. It'll shoot you in the hand. That's bad. Not as bad as the head. there's like standing up for your principles, and then there's just being lazy about the whole thing. You could dodge that, I think.
Well,
but anyway,
this thing, what you want to do is make sure you leave enough room for interpretation of crazy people. The first one, he's willing to die. Are you? And what scenario would you die? Is Joe Biden coming door to door and shooting people in the face? I don't know exactly how you would die. Only way you could die is if you engage in some kind of violent activity, and then someone responds to your violent activity, and you may die in the middle of it. That's the only conclusion you can come to when it comes to voting. Where's the dying part? Anyways, so next is this Rambo scene with an arrow in someone's face. So are the Republicans in Arizona Rambo, or are they the idiot who won't move out of the way of the arrow pointed between his eyes? I don't know, but I think they're gonna assume they're the tough guys. I'm the Rambo, so I'm sticking the arrow in people's faces. Wait, are we dying or are we killing? Who cares? As Brett Ehrlich says, as Simon Simonson of Simonson Sign says, who cares? It doesn't matter. Get shot in the face or shoot in the face. It doesn't matter. We're all just collateral damage to make sure Donald Trump survives and continues on with this facade.
Exactly. Yeah. They're talking about dying for it. My fear is that they're encouraging people to kill for it, because nobody is coming with a bow, which would be kind of cool at least. But nobody's coming with guns at you. You guys are the crazy ones. Like, do you not get that? But it isn't just them. I have a limit on how much Lou Dobbs I can take. I think it's about 11 seconds. So I'm gonna give you 11 seconds of Lou Dobbs being a tough guy.
My God, this is not a time for internecine nonsense on the part of the Republican Party, which is watching its blood drain into the streets because they're gutless.
See, that's again, it's the same thing. It's the like I'm more angry than anyone. Please keep watching my program. Like, there's blood in the street. Why is it all the blood imagery? We're talking about votes, like, and you lost by like 7 million of them. I get it that if you just talk about what's actually happening, it might be a little bit boring because it's just politics. But it's not about blood. Nobody's trying to kill you. Nobody's got an arrow in your face. You're not gutless, and your blood isn't leaking into the snow. That's not actually a thing. It's as little of a thing as your hair color is a thing. It's not a real thing. You just made it up.
You guys, you got to play Lou Dobbs' hair color silently underneath that, because I don't think enough people notice that. I notice it all the time, and I try not to bring it up because it's odd. But so yeah, the blood in the street, the arrows, they're willing to die. All these people are trying to harken back to this like idea, because I'm a real patriot. I was a patriot in 17, whatever. So you, by the way, if you were around in those times, you tough guys who like to talk about blood, gore, killing people, being killed, dying for the cause, you'd have been in the back of the line. You would not have been in the front lines of trying to clash with anyone and running into bayonets and getting killed. No, none of that would have happened. You wouldn't have been on Donald Trump's 1,800 airplanes back in the 1800s, landing in airports across the country. You wouldn't have been on those
Revolutionary War.
You would not have been on those airplanes. So anyways, the idea is to not have anything that's based in reality. Is to have these lofty like dreams in your head. Then you go outside and you try to recreate it, and you find out you're just a clown, because they're gonna get in the streets and bumble.
Yeah, a clown, painted face and all. Really fast, I want to talk about how different people can interpret different things at different times of their political awakening. So really fast, can we play that Lou Dobbs video really fast and just pay attention to the delivery of his lines?
My God, this is not a time for internecine nonsense on the part of the Republican Party, which is watching its blood drain into the streets because they're gutless.
Do you get? Does anyone get like what he's doing there? Like, I think it's honestly an impersonation. Does anyone know what I'm about to say?
No.
Because I recently rewatched V for Vendetta, and he's just doing Louis Prothero, the voice of London, where he's like screaming at the camera and like God above all, and England will prevail and all. That's all he's trying to do there. And it makes me think back to 2005 when I watched V for Vendetta, and I was still relatively new into politics and everything at that point. I was very worried about George W. Bush and fascism and everything. And like that character is supposed to be an over-the-top satire of a propagandist who supports a fascist government. And he is doing his utmost to channel that in 2020 on the way out as his chosen fascist gets thrown out. What a weird word. Like you would see that as a bottle.
It's the right way to go. We got Rambo videos. By the way, the Arizona Republican Party took down the Rambo video. You know, they took it down because Yeah, they were pressuring them to take it on because, I mean, they took it on immediately because they realized it was violent. It was apparently a short video, so I didn't actually see it live, but that screenshot you have is a part of that. Now, by the way, that party, the head of that party group had a statement. The Republican Party of Arizona condemns all forms of violence, apparently except for the ones we tweet about, and dying for. Sure, maybe they mean, are you willing to die of natural causes for Trump? I don't know, but I assume if you're gonna die for Donald Trump, it's probably gonna be in a violent form. In the strongest terms, they condemn all forms of violence. Fictional movie scenes should be weighed in their proper context. This is from Zachary Henry, who's the communications director for this party in Arizona. However, due to concerns about copyright and fair use law, the clip has been removed. Sure, Zachary, sure. It's because of copyright issues. Because on Twitter, if you post a 10-second clip of a movie, you get copyright issues. I don't know if Twitter's gonna come after me, but I posted Anchorman. I posted some Disney movies. I posted a lot of, I've done little 7 to 10 second clips of movies all the time to make fun of something or make a point. I didn't catch any copyright claims. I catch them when I post music on like YouTube or something. Yes, that happens. Yeah. Little clips of movies. Come on, bro. Just say we made a mistake and we were trying to get people to take to the streets for violence and we got caught.
No, because admitting that they made a mistake is telling people not to think about politics exclusively through a lens of you're about to be killed, so you need to kill them first. They want to have their murder and eat it too. Anyway, Jayar, thank you so much for appearing on this episode. There is only one thing more we would ask of you. Is Sprocket around?
He came out. He literally came out. He was in another room.
Somebody heard him, I think.
Yeah, he came out.
Sprocket.
He's gonna hear this. He's gonna hear it. No, he's not coming. Sprocket.
Okay, we might not have Sprocket.
Damn.
I'm gonna read one super chat and then we'll check in to see if Sprocket is back, okay? Let's see. Gary Does Stuff says, been using the Pilot G2 since 2007 through undergrad and graduate school. Glad you got it right, Beef Dragon Daddy. Thank you, Gary Does Stuff, I appreciate that. Any Sprocket?
There is a
yes.
He came out very slowly. I think he's a bit lethargic today. I don't know what's going on.
Oh my God, he's getting so scruffy. Can I take care of him for a couple of days? Is that a thing I can do?
I thought I'd have to ask you that.
No, I would love to have him for just like a weekend or something. Can I take him this weekend?
I'm a dog whisperer. What he just said was, John, would you take me for 2 weeks?
I am not gonna commit to that, but if you'd like me to take him for the weekend, I'll do that. Anyway, thank you, Jayar.
Yes.
Have a good one. Okay, everybody at home. Let's see. Rob Shively said it's not an insult talking about the previous super chat. The TYT crew is relaxing, and if I'm tired, your voices help me relax and sleep. It's because we're comfy with you. Well, thank you, Rob. That's very nice. Let's see. Dougie Skybowser with a big super chat saying we finally get a representative of the LGBTQ community in the primary, and it's him. He was a horrible mayor. If he couldn't handle a not big town, how can he take the country? John and JR, you guys rock. Dibs on Dougie Dragon. Well, that's yours, and thank you for that. Yeah, I've been rewatching old SNL, starting with like 2012 or something like that. And right now I'm on 2015. I literally just watched the Donald Trump episode. Maybe at some point I'll do a review of that episode because wow, that was a trip. But they said one thing in the Weekend Update about how many of these candidates are totally of the fail upward school. Like Carly Fiorina was the CEO of Hewlett Packard and she got fired. So she thought, well, I'm good at running things, obviously. I'm going to do Senate. I think she ran for Senate in California, I think. And then she lost. And so then she thought, well, then obviously I'm gonna run for president. Like, don't you need to do something at some point? Like, why do you get to just lose at all of these things and then run? Like he left a small town mayoral thing, which by the way, that is not a springboard to being a presidential candidate traditionally, but he didn't even do a good job. It's not like he did such an amazing, like rejuvenated the economy there. So he's getting like Time magazine covers. The whole thing is, it reminds me of TRL back in the day. And I know I don't like music, so maybe you're not gonna like this comparison. But it's where like all of a sudden someone has like a #1 video and everybody loves it now. But like you hadn't heard of them the week before, nobody had. But somehow they got enough requests to get #1. How did anyone know to request them? Where did they come from? I don't think they were actually voted onto TRL. I think that money changed hands. That is basically what happened with this primary run. And he's not the only one, and he won't be the only one going forward. But man, PR can accomplish some amazing things in pretty much every field. Anyway, there will be a new SNL this week. I believe Timothy Chalamet is hosting. Take that for what it's worth. Real Life Jolie says, sorry, John, I have no on-topic remarks given that I've been slaving over a microwave stoneware dish, but still, I wanna ask if I can take the name Vita Dragon like a stutter as I descend from the sky. That's awesome, you can have that, I like that. Brian says, Jayar playing with fire, posting Disney clips. Yeah, he's gonna get locked up eventually, trying to do that. Tina Clark says, when will these frivolous lawsuits result in Rule 11 sanctions? I don't know, you would imagine that, can't somebody be disbarred or something like that at some point? Goku Just Saying says, replace the economy with rich people's yacht money whenever they say we can't afford things for the less fortunate in infrastructure. Yeah. The Sing in the Left says, officially one life, me and John like the same pen. I would like to claim Dragon Sing, and John, if you give me a t-shirt, I will proudly wear it. That's funny. I think that's a reference to the Anna thing from yesterday. Richard Rowe for Congress says, I just picked up my favorite pen to rebut your assertion and realized it was a Pilot G207 cell phone. Wow, small world. Good pen though, good pen. Maybe I can get some sort of sponsorship from them. Galfar wants to know, and this is coming off of, this is on Twitch by the way, wants to know off of the Rambo thing, better with a bow, Hawkeye, Green Arrow, or Robin Hood. I don't know how good Green Arrow is. Hawkeye is quite good with a bow, I guess. That's his whole thing, I don't know. Let's see. Sarah Mack says, I recently took dexamethasone and I did not feel like Superman. I'm starting to think Trump exaggerates some things. I think you may be onto something. I think he was on something other than just Dexa. Let's see. Okay, Simomo says, well, small silver lining of being quarantined for 2 weeks is I get to be with my dragon buddies and Dragon Squad as long as I don't end up with worse symptoms. That's awesome, we'll be here for you and I hope that it doesn't get any worse. Two people, Fairy Cat and Troy Potter, are saying that they should pass out ballots with unlimited breadsticks to help people get through voting. I have heard of people bringing pizza. I've never heard of breadsticks specifically, but I think that would help. Over on Twitter at hashtag TDR Live, Eclectic Miscellaneous says the number one threat to Stephen Colbert and John Iadarola, bears, 100%. Maybe that's where the fear comes from. Unprecedented Madness is tweeting photos of me against Pete Buttigieg. Thank you. I don't want to engage, but thank you. Let's see. Carson Rodkey says Sharpie pens are nothing. Yeah, man. Once you have the bold line of a very thin Sharpie like this Papermate, it's hard to go back to a regular pen. But apparently the Pilot's the one. And they're not, by the way, a sponsor. We don't have any kind of pen sponsor or anything like that. Anyway, with that said, thank you to everybody who joined us for this episode. Big interview coming up about the climate. It'll be up sooner or later, but if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and get notifications, you'll find out whenever that is. Tomorrow, we've got a very special treat for you, and that is Twitch streamer and friend of the network, Abelina Sabrina, is going to be joining us as the co-host of the show for the first time ever, so you're not gonna wanna miss that. Whether you watch it on YouTube or on her home platform of Twitch, definitely be there for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll see you then, and until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.